Lily, welcome. If you just need to unmute yourself, I just sent you a mute request. Eyshe, the floor is yours.
Scheinem Dank, Scheinem Dank. Shalom Aleichem, euch alle. Es ist Tomme der Vergnügen, euch zu sehen. Wie allemal, ja, wie allemal wollen wir anheben mit ein bisschen Schmues. Das heißt, dass ich will euch fragen, was tut sich, was ist dir Neues? Und du kannst mir sagen, alles was du willst. Euch, wichtige Punkt. Oib du hast eine Frage, oib du willst etwas fragen, frag. Wir können euch anheben mit deine oder eure Frage. Gut, schön.
Ich habe eine Sache interessant. We were talking about the dated case and Lomir and a briefle der Mamen. Dos Nicola is mir trogen a Gesang und es hat de Wärter von veel jiddische Lieder und de Wärter von a briefle der Mamen.
Sehr schön.
De Jingle is gegangen zu ein anderer Land und the mama asks, and not fragt, but requests.
Right.
I'm trying to think of the.
Die Mama, wir können sagen, fragen, die Mama fragt, that's okay.
Okay, the mama.
Wir können euch sagen, bet, die Mama bet, as, es ist so etwas tun. Ja?
Ja. Und she fragt ihm, ihr Sohn, zu schreiben Briefle der Mama. Das ist Antwort wegen Kontext.
Gut, das heißt, es ist die beide, ja? Es ist ein Briefle von der Mama, was sagt, als der Sohn soll schreiben ein Briefle zu der Mama. Ja?
Ja.
Sehr schön.
Ja.
Sehr schön. Gut.
Das ist recht.
Sehr schön. Gut. Heinz, noch unser Schmues, habe ich ein paar Sachen für uns. Wir kennen, das ist ein gutes Wort. Wir kennen mamschich sein. Das heißt, weißt, was das heißt, mamschich sein? Ja, Lily. Lily, dein Mikrofon ist verstummt. Ich kann dich nicht hören, leider. Du willst reden. Eine Sekunde, Lily, dein Mikrofon. Es ist verstummt. Carrie, sure. Can you maybe send a good. Lily, did you want to say something? I just the only thing is we can't hear you because your microphone is muted, is the only thing.
Okay. Is das gut?
Ja, das ist gut, Anthea, dank.
Okay.
Und wir warten auf Lily. Lily, do you know how to unmute your mic by any chance?
Looks like she's on the phone, so basically.
Yeah.
So she have to unmute.
Yeah. No.
No.
Lily. No. I'm not sure how to fix the problem immediately. But we can listen. We'll go ahead and continue. Lily, if you're on your phone, you may have to click on the screen once, and then there might be a thing at the top that allows you to unmute your microphone. Otherwise, you might try with your computer. I don't know. We'll for now, let's talk about this verb, and then we'll do a little more conversation. Gut, mamschich sein. Weißt, was das heißt, mamschich sein?
To be quiet. Mamschich sein.
Mamschich sein heißt...
Like mom.
Nein. Mamschich sein Gita guck auf was ich hab gelegt in dem Schmueskestel. That's the chat box. Schmueskestel. Sie kommt von Hebräisch. Mamshech zayn heißt to continue. To continue with something.
Ah, okay.
Oder gehen weiter. Gehen weiter, kann man sagen. Gehen weiter, Mamshech zayn. Die beide heißt to continue. Gut. Das heißt es verheint, wie ich habe gesagt, wir wollen schmussen und nachdem habe ich zwei Sachen. Wir können Mamshech zayn, ja, so we can continue mit unserem Text, Bärle, oder die beide können man tun, oder wir können euch a cook geben, that means take a look, ja, and a cook geben,
Give a look, yeah.
auf a lead, was ich habe bei uns.
My grandfather usually used to say if he wanted to show me something, to go, oh, give a cook.
Ja, give a cook,
Ja,
Shane. Ja, give a cook, Shane.
Give a
Sehr
cook.
schön. Es sagt euch, wie Lily wird zurückkommen. Shane. Okay, lass mich anheben mit ein bisschen Schmuss. Ich bin neugierig. Was heißt neugierig?
You're curious.
Curious.
I'm curious. Ja.
Um,
Ich bin neugierig zu hören von Marken. Marken sei so gut. If you guys are not familiar with this expression, sei so gut, das heißt please.
Please.
Sei so gut.
Ja.
You-
Was machst du? Was ist dir Neues? Was hast du getan durch der Woche? Ich weiß nicht. Sag mir etwas auf Yiddish.
Let's see.
Du kennst. Mhm.
Yeah, so far, I ich bin gefahren auf meinem Bicycle.
Sehr schön. Bicyclette kann man sagen. Bicyclette.
Okay.
Ja, Bicyclette. Ja, das heißt, du bist gefahren mit dem Bicyclette, das ist schön.
Ja, let's see.
Oder der Bicycle kann man sagen. Gut.
Let's see. Oh man, I can't think.
Kein Problem nicht. Du kannst Poschet sagen, was machst du? Ja? Ist es dir gut, Heinz? Ist es dir nicht? Ist es dir schlecht? Ist es dir nicht koscher?
Mir ist gut.
Ist es gut?
Good, yeah. Let's see. Ich habe gesehen mit mein Mischproche der Film, dem Film.
Gut, im Film. Ja, sehr schön, sehr schön.
Fiddler on the Roof.
Ah, gut. Du weißt, wie soll man sagt Fiddler on the Roof?
How to say fiddler on the roof in Yiddish? Fiddler with
Fiddler auf dem Dach or something.
A fiddler off and down.
Fiddler auf dem Dach. Und dem Film, was du hast gesehen, das ist gewesen der Film, was ist gedreht geworden. That means the film was made. Drehen a film is like, old film cameras. Drehen a film.
Roll,
Ja, es ist gedreht geworden. Ist das gewesen die 1971 Film, was du hast gesehen? Oder noch ein Film?
Ja.
Schön.
1971.
Gut, ja, 1971. 1971. Ja, gut. Schön. Und sie sagt euch, wie Lily ist zurück. Ich hoffe, sie können uns hören. Gut. Gitzel, was machst du? Sag mir die Neues.
Okay, ich mach gut. Ich hab euch gesehen auf der Dach.
Okay. I don't
They
know.
They shine.
Lily, du kennst uns hören.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Ja, ja,
Okay.
Ja, sehr gut.
sehr schön. Gut.
Okay.
Wir schmusen zwischen sich ein bisschen. Gittel, sei Mamsche.
Okay, ich hab gehabt a gute Woche.
Mhm.
The Wetter ist gewesen sehr schein.
Sehr gut, sehr gut.
And ich hab gehabt vernissen zu gehen, spazieren,
Yeah. Walk.
spazieren in the park. Wie sagt man Park?
Ja, der Park, sagt man.
Ich habe gesehen, als Sachscheine Blume, Trees. Wie sagt man Trees?
So,
The colors from the trees. Wie sagt man?
der Bäum. No, so the tree is der Bäum.
The boy.
The trees is die Bäume. Die Bäume. In dein Akzent, so wird das schon gewähnt, die Bäume.
Amen.
On color of Yiddish, we have two options. This is der Polier oder der Farbe. Der
Okay.
Farbe kann man sagen.
Farb von der Beimer ist gewesen sehr schein. Dus in a weekend or Shabbos and Sonntag fuhr to Madison, Wisconsin for mein Einekels 8th birthday.
Geburtstag.
Mazel tov.
Geburtstag.
Ja.
And this is was a teen this war.
Sehr schön. Sehr schön. Dank für mir Sorgen, Dank für mir erzählen. Und Eyshe Jöchenen, was machst du? Was ist dir Neues? Du kennst bestimmt so ja.
Ich schreibe a bickel von mein Bobis Rezepten für jiddische Speise.
Oh,
Und-
gut. Speisen, das existiert auf Jiddisch. Es ist besser zu sagen, das ist
Ja.
wie gesagt früher, jiddische moykholim. Jiddische moykholim. Jiddische
Holy is
Moykhl,
yeah, so their moykhl is a cuisine or like a food or like a dish, a recipe, their moykhl, and the plural is di moykholim, and because it comes from Hebrew, it's spelled the Hebrew fashion.
yeah.
Gut, so du sagst es, du schreibst das Buch wegen jüdischen moykholim von der Bob.
Yeah, on it is also the Meise wegen the Immigranten von Bessarabia in 1900 und zu kommen und wohnen in Amerika und lernen amerikanische Derek, it's a Hebrew word, ways. You
Yeah.
know.
Es ist euch auf Jiddisch, a derechim.
Ja, okay. Und mein Kinderlag, sie fragen mir zu schreiben dem Buch, weil ich bin I want to say the last generation to have direct contact with these immigrants. And so it started out that I was going to pass this down to the kids, but it expanded, and now I'm sure it will be published.
That's a shame. So the last generation is der letzter door. Der letzter
Door,
door.
yeah, Hebräisch, door, yeah, first day.
No, and for
I
those
must
that
have been
don't know,
asleep.
Yeah, and for those that don't know Hebrew, this third word, so der letzte, something that's letzt is the last. Like, and it doesn't necessarily mean like the last week. It means last in a row. For example, door, der door is a Hebrew word. So although it's spelled with a vav, it's pronounced door, and it means generation. Der door. Der door.
In the tefillos, we're singing La Dor Vador, La Dor Vador Nagidot Lecha.
No, and der Mehrzahl, that means the plural, der Mehrzahl is die Deures. Die Deures. So der Dor, die Deures. Der Dor, die Deures. Okay. Good. Und just a small, a sehr kleine Bemerkung is if in Yiddish we want to say learn something, how does one say learn? I don't know, I'm learning Yiddish. Wie soll ich sagen, I'm learning Yiddish?
Jetzt lernen.
Ich lerne Mama losen.
Gut. So, die was haben gesagt sich, ja, das ist
Dorin sich Yiddish.
ja, mit darf haben sich. Ich lerne Yiddish. Weil lernen allein, that means learning just the word itself, yo, das heißt to teach. So jetzt lernen ich Yiddish, yo, aber ihr lernt sich Yiddish. So you're learning Yiddish, and I'm technically teaching,
Ich learn sich.
Yeah, lernt sich. No, but we're all also teaching each other, of course. So no, ich lerne sich Yiddish.
Lernen.
So good. So Jöchnen, when you wanted to say that, new immigrants were learning kind of the American way of life, they learned
Lernen sich. Ja, verstehe.
Okay, gut. Ich will euch hören von Anthea. Shalom Aleichem, Anthea. It's good to sein.
Okay. Dank. Ich will wissen, kennst du alle hören die Tumo, was macht sich euch da?
Ein bisschen.
Kennst du hier? Ich kenne, okay, is das okay? Because, I mean, ich höre das und das geht zum Wand.
Yeah. Was die kennst tun ist, wenn die redst nicht,
Ja.
macht mute.
Okay, ich will das tun. Okay, all right.
Wenn du reden, unmute. So.
Okay, das ist a gute Sache, was du hast gesagt. Was ist eine Idee? Idee. Okay. Right, ich bin zurück in Florida und du es kann hören, uns leben mit einer sehr großen Tumor. Und die eine Seite ist die Wetter sehr gut, aber die zweite Seite ist nicht gut für den Kopf.
Ja, versteht sich.
Die letzte Woche gegangen zu viel Doktorin für meinen Mann und alle die was ist Test?
Like a test at a doctor?
Test, ja.
This is a test, push the test, their test.
The test. So alle die Tests seien sehr gut und das ist gut zu hören. Und anders von das ist nicht mehr, was ich kann dir erzählen.
Gut, aber es ist schön, was du hast erzählt. Dank. And just a very small observation on language that might interest some of you. So we learned, I think maybe it was last time, der Doktor and the plural of doctor. I don't know if we actually talked about this. Doktorim, but in Anthea's very beautiful Litvak accent, you have dokterim. What's the kind of that? And sometimes you hear dokterim, that happens too. But at any rate, so that's absolutely correct, just a different way of saying it. But in standard Yiddish, Doktorin, the plural is Doktorin. Der Doktor, die Doktorin. Shane, a dank an dem. Sehr schön. Und Lily, ich will hören, was machst du?
Okay, danke, ich mach nicht schlecht. Ich hab gewähnt auf sehr interessante Opera mit der. Ich hab das gesehen in Movie Theater. In einem Theater?
In Kino. Kino.
Kino, like in Russian. Ich hab das gesehen in einem Kino vom Metropolitan Theater in New York. Ich hab gehabt das Sache vergnügt.
Sehr schön, sehr schön. Gut.
Und was? Ich hab gewähnt ein sehr guter Konzert. Ich bin, how would I say, I myself, ich bin ein Musician.
Ich bin sich allein.
Sich allein.
Ich bin sich allein.
ein Musiker. Ich spiele das Piano. Ich habe gespielt eine Sache, ja. Jetzt da spielen nicht Sache. But I go to concert.
Gut, gut.
Willst du spielen für uns someday?
Someday.
Gut, ein Tag hast du
Tag.
Gut. Und unsere teure Gännele, was machst du?
Good, sehr gut. Let's see. Heynt ist ein guter Tag. Wir gehen zur Schule hin mit meinem Sohn.
Sehr schön.
Let's see. Ich liebe zu lesen Bücher. Ich hab lieb zu hören den Film. Aber ich habe zu arbeiten.
Gut. You have to work. I have to. Ja. Auf Yiddish kann man sagen zwei Sachen. Ja. Me gewöhnlich, that means usually. Ja. Gewöhnlich. Ich habe das geschrieben in Schmueskastel. Gewöhnlich sagt man, ich darf arbeiten. Ich darf arbeiten.
Ja.
Aber wir können ja sagen, ich hab zu arbeiten. So klingt ein bisschen Englisch. Aber das ist verständlich. Man wird das verstehen. Ja?
Could you repeat it, please?
Ja. Ich darf arbeiten.
Yes, darf.
Oder seltener, that means much rarer. Und es ist besser für Amerikaner, Jiden, was sagen das. Ich habe zu arbeiten. I have to work. Ja.
It's American way of saying it. Yeah. But I need to work.
Ja.
Auf Yiddish, ich darf.
Kann ich fragen, kannst du sehen, ich muss arbeiten?
Okay. Das ist eine gute Frage. Lass mir ein bisschen herumschmeißen.
Muss is like must.
So this is what we're talking about here. I'm going to do this kind of briefly because I have it's always great. I love these questions. I just want to make sure we have enough time for the other things. So what we're getting at here is this idea of what are called modal verbs. Modal verbs. And a modal verb are verbs that don't necessarily, they're called modal because they don't have strong meanings on their own. They modify verbs that come after them. So you are already familiar, probably, with many of these verbs. Great examples are verbs like sollen, sollen, müssen, darfen, װעלן, Now, be careful. This word Łעlן is the infinitive that we get ich will, du willst. It's not the future tense. This is the infinitive for I want, to want. Łעlן, Łעlן, to want.
Like ich will.
Like ich will, exactly. The infinitive is Łעlן, Yeah. So to want. My handwriting is a little to want. Good. And then the list can go on and on. For now, though, before we spend a lot of time going into all the nuances, and there are unfortunately a lot of them, the biggest difference between müssen and dürfen we should talk about, because this will be helpful. Dürfen is used much more commonly than müssen, and there's a big reason for this. And that's because dürfen has to do with kind of all general needs. I need to do this. I have to do this. This is something I have to do to live. It's something I have to do because I want to do it, or I need to do it to do something else, etc., etc. Ich darf trinken Wasser. Ich darf gehen in die Häusen. Ich will sich so, ich weiß nicht, ich will sich so, ich darf schlafen. Ja, dürfen. Müssen, however, müssen, yes, literally translated as must, but müssen has the connotation of an obligation or an institution who's making you do something, or a rule that's making you do something. So a good example to this would be, you know, and I'll do this kind of slowly, and I'll write it in the chat as I say it. Eider ich fahr in Deutschland. Eider ich fahr in Deutschland. Darf ich sammeln meine Sachen? Darf ich sammeln meine Sachen? That means I need to collect my things. I need to collect my things. So that means before I travel to Germany, I need to collect my things. Aber ich muss haben a pass or a passport. Oder a passport. Das heißt es, I need to collect my things because that's something I need to do to travel or to get ready to travel. But I must, ich muss haben a pass in order to be able to travel because it's institutionally required. Yeah. So for example, if you were in a class, in this class, and I gave you guys an exam, you might say, ich muss nehmen dem Examen. No, ich muss nehmen dem Examen. But you might say, ich darf gehen, weil ich muss tun etwas anderes. I need to go because that's something I need. Müssen is something that someone else needs.
Müssen is more like mandatory.
Mandatory, exactly. Müssen is something mandatory. Yeah, good. Does that make sense as far as the difference between müssen and dürfen? Yeah, good. Okay, and we'll leave modal verbs here for a little bit. What I really want to do is touch on a little more on verbs, because I want to make sure we do the most accurate, and also we're all on the same page about verb structure in Yiddish. And today, I really want to talk about something that you may know intuitively, especially those who've grown up speaking Yiddish, but it may not have been explained, or we'll talk about it today, and you'll see what I mean. Has anyone heard the term periphrastic verbs? Periphrastic verbs. This is kind of a heady linguistics word, but it's the name we use in Yiddish. Periphrastische Verben. Periphrastische Verben. I'll also write it in the chat. Periphrastische Verben. Yeah. Also in English, periphrastic verbs. Yeah. Don't let the name scare you. These are structures you already know. Essentially, what this means is that these are verbs that are composed of two parts, two separate words. Yeah. So examples of these you already know. Probably the most famous is liebhaben.
Liebhaben, yeah.
Liebhaben. Yeah. This is one verb, which means to like or to love, but it's composed of two parts. This word lieb here, and this kind of smaller verb, haben. Now, something to keep in mind. The word lieb on itself, by itself, is not actually a word. Yeah? The word for love in Yiddish, what's the word for love in Yiddish? Does anyone know? Ja, Liebe. 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 Mit den Ein. Mit den Ein. Liebe. Good. But lieb, without the ein, is not actually a Yiddish word. It's a component part of this verb. The best advice I can give you before we go into kind of structure about periphrastic verbs is that although they look as though they are composed of two separate words, it's better to think of them as one coherent unit, as kind of one word in of itself. And I'll show you what I mean when I give you some examples. So this isn't, as English speakers, we might be, and for some of you who, again, grew up speaking Yiddish, this might be less of a problem. But for English speakers or non-native Yiddish speakers, you might think of Łערבן as to have love for something, literally speaking. You might be thinking of that as in your head, I have love for this, I have love to read, etc., etc. I would very nicely caution against that, because if we think of periphrastic verbs as two separate words, you run into issues of meaning, especially with verbs like, for example, mamshich zayn. Mamshich zayn, another periphrastic verb composed of two parts. This part here, mamshich from Hebrew, which means
Continue.
Continuer, literally, because it's a participle. Is that right? It's participle with the mem in front. Yeah. And also it means continuing or continuation plus zayn, to be. So this, you might think of it as let's say as a native English speaker, you might think of it as, to be continuing or to be continued or something to that effect. But that's not actually its meaning. Mamshich zayn means to continue, right? Just like Łערבן means to love, to like. This is one verb unit that works in tandem, and let's look at some examples to show you what I mean. So, and then I'll take some questions and we'll use these and also look at some of the stuff I have today. Okay, so let's start with the verb Ֆænthoben. Ֆænthoben. Was heißt Ֆænthoben?
To hate.
To hate, exactly. Ֆænthoben means to hate something. To hate something. If we were to conjugate this verb, Lily, how would you conjugate this verb? Ich, du, er.
Ich feind oben.
Ich hab Feind.
Ich hab Feind. Sport. Football.
Yeah, good.
Ich hab
good.
Die hast Feind. Sie hat Feind.
Good, Shane.
Sie hat Feind.
And then we can just kind of, we know the rest. Mir haben Feind. Good. So in this example, let's use the phrase that Lily already gave us. Ich hab Feind. Actually, I think in Yiddish it's a pasuk. Football. Or I think in Yiddish you might say Fußball. Either way, same thing. Football. And for those who are still trying to get used to either my handwriting or cursive in general, I'll also write this in the chat. Ich hab Feind Fußball.
I have a question on that.
Of course.
I remember now that the word find, I now remember people saying that. Ich hab das Feind. I remember putting the das. Is that correct? Ich hab das Feind.
That's exactly.
I don't like this at all.
That's
I don't
exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And we'll talk about that exception to this rule.
But you put Fußball at the end after find. So ich hab Fußball Feind, or is that not correct? Or could it be either way?
Ich hab Fußball Feind is not correct.
It doesn't sound good.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It shouldn't for your ears because it's not correct.
But ich hab das Feind is
sounds
okay.
good. Yeah. So there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that in one moment. So first of all, without words like dos or other kind of intermediary words, just kind of a simple sentence like Ich hab Feind Fußball. a couple observations. Yeah. The first is when we have a periphrastic verb like find haben, lieb haben, and we want to conjugate it, what's the first thing we do? You can just shout it out. Or the first thing you do.
Personal pronoun. No.
Yeah, you need your pronoun. Absolutely. Then what else do we need?
What's the question? What do we need? What?
Yo, what are the steps you might do in your head to turn find haben into ich hab find?
But you break it up and you put the hub in front and then you conjugate hub.
Great. Good. So we're changing the order of these. Yeah. So we're actually putting find after haben. Yeah. So an example of this is right here. Ich hab find Fußball. If we have lieb haben, find haben, moykhl haben, to be scared. Yeah. Moykhl haben. We conjugate what's called our auxiliary verb first. Auxiliary verb in Yiddish, we call it a hilfsverb. A hilfsverb, a helping verb, a helping verb, a hilfsverb. Yeah. So the first thing you do is you conjugate your helping verb, your auxiliary verb. So you take this haben and you conjugate it according to the personal pronoun we already have, right? Ich is our personal pronoun. We know haben becomes ich hab. Yeah. Everyone with me so far, right?
Yeah.
Good. Then we take the second part of our unit, right? So it is the second part of the unit, but it's all one verb, you know, because without the find part, it would just mean to have. And without the haben part, it wouldn't mean anything. You know, it would be meaningless. So we take the front part, find, and we put it after our verb. Ich hab find, ich hab lieb, ich hab moykhl, and the list can go on and on. If we want to say something like I continue with mamshech zayn, it's the same thing. We take our personal pronoun. This time we'll use do. And what should come after do if we want to use mamshech zayn, if we want to conjugate mamshech zayn?
Lost.
But it's mamshech zayn. Yeah. So we have a different verb. So this is find haben. This time it's mamshech zayn. We need to conjugate our auxiliary verb, which gives us du bist.
Bist.
Mamshich. Du bist mamshich. Literally speaking, you continue. You continue.
Zayn.
And you use zayn because auxiliary verbs can take haben or zayn. Sorry, periphrastic verbs can take haben or zayn for their hilfsverb. Yo, du bist. Yo, Genela, go.
Yeah, just a quick question. In case if we are using like ḣableben for Liban. In, for example, we are using before in other verb there. For example, I like to play. So would you say ich hab Liban spielen, or you say ich hab spielen Liban?
In that scenario,
yeah, this is what I'm thinking, because I think I saw it somewhere when you sticking the second word between the combination of words.
So yeah, that's jumping a little ahead. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. As far as the placement of our object, for example, ich hab, if you want to say I love to play, you would say in Yiddish, ich hab lieb zu spielen. Ich hab lieb zu spielen. So with the infinitive, exactly. So this kind of brings us to a broader question. I'm gonna go ahead and erase this real fast. Of what do we do with these verbs once we know how to conjugate it? Yeah, what do we do with them, right? Because I could give you any verb. Let's do another periphrastic verb you probably already know. Yeah, was verb ist das?
Moykhl zayn. To forgive.
Moykhl zayn. Every time you say zayn mir moykhl, you're using a periphrastic verb. Moykhl zayn means to forgive.
Forgive.
to forgive. Moykhl zayn. I can also write this in the chat.
Don't you need a yud, moykhl? Without a yud?
Ah, yeah, no yud here. No yud here. It's just mim, vov, ches, lamed. Moykhl.
The Hebreische word.
מחילה.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you're thinking of the noun mחיהלע
Yes,
here. And this is not to forgive, but rather forgiveness.
forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Di mחיהלע. Yeah, that's also a Yiddish word. Di mחיהלע, forgiveness. Yeah. So for example, if you were begging someone to forgive you, you might say, Ich bet dein mחיהלע. I beg your forgiveness. Ich bet dein mחיהלע. But as far as the verb is concerned, moykhl zayn means to forgive. So if I said, Ich bin dir moykhl, what would that mean? Ich
I
bin
forgive
dir
you.
moykhl. I forgive you.
Where do you
forgive
use the to, like to moykhl zayn, to forgive? To, I thought it would mean to forgive, or do you not need it in moykhl?
In Yiddish, we don't need this to.
The to,
Yeah.
the
Yo. So
to
basically,
forgive.
in English, we have this to because that's how we mark our infinitive. You know, in Yiddish, we already have another way of marking our infinitive, which is this here.
Zayn.
Oh,
It's the
that-
longer noon, you know, just like in schreiben. Yeah, we already have our infinitive marked by this noon at the end. You know, that's our infinitive marker. That's our to, right? You know, schreiben.
Beten
Schreiben.
sein. Schreiben sein. Schreiben
Yeah.
sein.
No. You wouldn't say schreiben sein, but
Oh.
just as an example, this is an infinitive verb because it includes an infinitive here, zayn. You know, moykhl zayn, as one verb meaning to forgive. So some examples will make this clear. And then we'll talk about placement, and then we'll do something more fun. So we have, I'm going to write a bunch. We have liebhaben. We have Łەint haben. My handwriting is a little bad today. It's okay.
I-
Fine.
Feicht. Feicht? What's feicht?
Sorry. Łەint haben.
Ah,
Łەint haben.
Feicht,
Mhm.
yeah.
Łەint haben.
Fine, Robin,
Then we have
fine.
the ones we might do moykhl zayn.
Moykhl zayn.
As far as there's a bunch of these. I'm trying to think of some useful ones. Moykhl haben.
Oh, Moira, afraid,
Be afraid.
Moykhl haben. Was heißt moykhl haben?
afraid, afraid.
To be scared, to be afraid, and that's moykhl haben far epis. Yeah, moykhl haben far epis. So ich hab moykhl far spinnen. I'm scared of spiders. Yeah, ich hab moykhl far spinnen. You know, we also have more Lashon Kodesh words. So you might say something like,
Spiders.
what are some good periphrastic Lashon Kodesh words?
Frage haben? Do you have a Frage haben? Like to ask? Or not?
One more time.
Frage haben? Like a question? I have to ask a question? Frage.
Yo, that is kind of we'll asterisk Frage haben for now, because that's a little bit of a different scenario, but good logic there. Yeah, we'll asterisk that for now. But I'm thinking of things like oh gosh, I know so many of them, they're not coming to me.
Is a hungrig or zayn, like you're hungry, zayn?
No, because hungrig is just an adjective. These are verbs that work with two words to form one verb unit.
Oh,
Yeah. So an example of this might be oh my gosh, they all go out of your head. Machaya zayn sich means to be happy. Machaya zayn sich. The list goes on and on and on. I'll come up with a better list because for whatever reason they're all flying out of my head. But the point is that all of these verbs work identical to verbs like schreiben, lייענען, trinken, etc., etc. They just don't look the same. They're composed of two parts, yeah, which also gives us a little bit more nuance as far as how we use them. So a great example of this is this. We're going to stick with liebhaben for now. Ich hab lieb zu spielen. Ich hab lieb zu spielen. When
Love
we
to
use,
play.
yeah, when we use, just to use Genela's example, when we use an infinitive after liebhaben, we need a zu to separate them. Ich hab lieb zu, infinitive verb. But outside of that case, we have a big distinction here that might be helpful. If our object is a noun, that means not a pronoun, not a pronoun. If our object is a noun, then it goes after the entire unit of the periphrastic verb. So you would say, Ich hab lieb Fußball. Fußball is der Fußball. The second we turn this object into a pronoun, and included within pronouns here, in this case, are two exceptions, which is dos and epis. So all pronouns, including dos or epis, go between the two parts of the verb. So if you wanted to say, I love it, in reference to football, you would say, Ich hab
Lieb.
ihm lieb, because it's der Fußball. Der Fußball, so it becomes ihm as a pronoun.
Goes after entire. So it
It
goes
goes-
after. So it breaks the unit.
It breaks the unit. Exactly. It breaks the unit. Yeah. It goes in between it. So for example, I'll give some more quick ones. If I wanted to say, I forgive jöichanan, I forgive jöichanan, I would say, Ich bin moykhl jöichanan. Ich bin moykhl jöichanan. I'm forgiving jöichanan. If I want to say, if I want to say, I forgive him, I would say, Ich bin ihm moykhl.
Moykhl.
Ich bin ihm moykhl. Let's try this a little bit. Gittel, would you tell me how to say, I'm scared of cars, but also I'm scared of them?
Ich bin, wie sagt man, wie sagt man, ich bin, how do you say?
So you would use moykhl here.
Oh,
You
moykhl.
would use moykhl.
Ich bin moykhl von Autos.
Good.
Ich bin
So,
moykl Autos.
so two things. The first thing is, so moykhl haben, whenever you hear a periphrastic verb, pay close attention to what auxiliary Hilfsverb it's using. Moykhl haben uses haben. So that means in our sentence, we're going to want to conjugate haben.
Haben.
So ich hab moykhl.
Uh,
And then
yeah.
moykhl takes the preposition far, which I wrote kind of ugly there, but it takes far. So if you wanted to say, I'm scared of something, you would say, Ich hab moykhl far epis.
Ich hab moykl für Autos.
Good. Ich hab moykl far autos.
Can you
And
write
what
it?
about,
Yeah.
here,
Ich hab
I'll write this one out in the chat.
Ich hab moykl von Autos. Ich hab das moykl. Is it?
In this case, it's plural, so you're going to say, Ich hab ze.
Oh,
Moykl.
ze moykl. Ich hab ze moykl.
Hab ze moykl. Ich hab moykl far autos. Ich hab ze moykl. Let's practice this again with another example. Mark, would you like to give me an example? It can be with any periphrastic verb. There's a lot more than what I've listed here. They're just not all coming to me right now. Can you give me an example with Łęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęęę
Um, ich hab lieb cats.
Du hast lieb was? Ich habe nicht gehört.
Fine.
Ich hab lieb mein cats.
Good. Okay. Ich hab lieb mein Katz, Shane. Now, Katz is feminine. Katz is feminine. So how would you say this if you were turning mein Katz into an object pronoun?
Ich hab ihr lieb.
Good. In this case, it would be sie because
Sie,
it's a
yeah.
accusative, but that's no worries. We haven't gotten that far yet. Ich hab sie lieb. Ich hab sie lieb. Ich hab lieb mein Katz. Ich hab sie lieb. For those of you who've grown up with Yiddish, you might try trying to change this, and it'll sound weird for you. Maybe like Gittel in particular, maybe. Ich hab lieb sie sounds wrong, to the ears. Or ich hab mein Katz lieb sounds maybe a little less wrong, but still kind of weird to your ears. And this is the reason. If it's not a noun, it breaks the unit. It goes in between. That's why you say ich hab das lieb instead of ich hab lieb das. Although you could say the second, it just sounds a little funny. Yeah. Yochanan, can you give me an example with machaya zayn zich? Now, pay attention to this zich. Pay attention to this and try your best. See if you can figure out what to do with it.
Ich bin Mechaya Fußball.
Good. Okay. This one's a little harder. So any periphrastic verb that takes zich, you have to include zich. Also.
Oh yeah. Okay. Ich bin Mechaya sich Fußball.
Good.
No?
So this is almost there. Ich bin sich Mechaya.
Sich.
Ich bin sich Mechaya von Fußball.
Okay, von Fußball.
Bin sich Mechaya von Fußball. I enjoy football.
Right.
Ich
bin sich es Mechaya. I like it.
Yeah, good. Football is masculine, so you might say im, but yeah,
Im.
s also works. S is fine. S is kind of a stand-in for anything. So ich bin sich Mechaya. Yeah, that also works. Although this phrase is a little long, and Yiddish speakers might not say it all like that. Lily.
I have a question. For me, Mechaya and football, Mechaya is not exactly I like football.
Correct.
Correct. What I mean?
Mechaya zayn means I am enjoying. Es freut sich mir.
Yeah.
Freuen sich. Freuen sich is a cognate with Mechaya zayn. Freuen sich.
But how would you say I like?
Ich hab lieb.
Football. Somehow,
No,
to my ear, it's better than Mechaya.
But so Mechaya does not mean to like or love. Mechaya zayn sich means to gain, to receive enjoyment, or to be pleasured from something, to be happy from something. Mechaya zayn sich. So there's a lot of verbs like this, and you'll notice them more the more we do. I will let this sit for now, and I'll send some reading on it next time if you guys want.
One quick thing. What I heard growing up a lot was Mechaya and Sisa Mechaya. It's a joy. It's a life giver. It gives pleasure. So, the White Sox are in the World Series. Das is a Goysa Mechaya. This particular construction, which I know is correct, and it's wonderful that you shared it because they needed to learn it, was not really something I heard. The word Mechaya was used standalone.
You might not. Okay, so two things. You might not remember it, but I can assure you this verb is not only common, but there also is the noun di Mechaya.
Yeah.
They both exist and they're both in use. Es is mira Mechaya is very common. There is also a verb Mechaya zayn. That uses the same word. Yeah. So
Okay, now on that word machaya, remember a few weeks ago I spoke about a moykhl, and nobody in the class knew what a moykhl was, and we decided that it was the same as machaya, and you were going to find out, Eyshe, where that stems from, because that's how I knew machaya, something being a moykhl.
yo,
Do you
here,
remember that? We spoke about it a few weeks ago.
I can show you guys here. I can show you guys a little what I'm talking about using dictionary, which might be helpful. If you guys have never used the Yiddish
I
dictionary.
think about people also. You say a moykhl. She is a moykhl. She's
Yeah.
so
Nine. But in my world, growing up, how you use machaya, we used to use the word moykhl. Like
So-
as du gehst in Yam, das is a moykhl. If you had something like a breeze blowing on a hot summer's day, das is a moykhl.
Oh, cool.
Yo,
Yeah, I think the usage, because I heard this too, it would have been adding a diminutive, a mchiehla, or a moykhl.
probably
It's
so-
a little joy, it's a pleasure, and it all is wrapped up in this mishigas about you never want to say something is too good or too beneficial, because chas
So, hold
v'shulam,
on.
you're gonna-
Meine Teire, we are running out of time. So just for time's sake, I just want to show you all a few things I think will clear up the discussion.
The
very much.
moykhl.
Yo.
Okay.
So just to show you some things, and I'm showing you with the dictionary, just so you know we're all on the same page. You know I'm not lying to you. Yeah.
Could you
So-
forward us a link for this dictionary?
Yeah, I did send it actually.
Oh.
But I can send it again.
Could you do it again? Yeah.
Yo, it's just
It's
versibook.org.
motivating, I see.
I'll send it in the email, but I really want to focus on what we see in the dictionary real fast,
Yeah.
just to show you guys what's happening. Okay, so this word moykhl, if we type it in, literally speaking, we get one result, which is a food, a dish, a treat, something delicious. A moykhl. I think ייענען is right on the dot, that if we type in machaya, first of all, we get two. So the noun machaya is here, di machaya, and they probably said it was a mchiheł or a mchihełע, which means a small pleasure or a small delight or a dear pleasure or a dear delight. So that's using the infinitive, the diminutive, the same way you'd say das Kindl, das Teppel, das Mädel. So di machaya becomes das mchiheł or das mchihełע. Das mchihełע. You'll also notice that in this selection, we have not only this noun, machaya, but we have a verb, machaya zayn. So it is both the noun and a periphrastic verb, which is not the noun plus a verb, it's its own unit. It means its own thing, which in this case means to refresh or delight from something, or be delighted from something, or machaya zayn sich was, I am happy that, ich bin sich machaya was du hast das getan, I'm happy that you did that, ich bin sich machaya was du hast das getan. So this website, I'm going to write it in the chat real fast, is န့terbuch.org. It's wonderful. It does require a subscription, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because they need money to operate. But it's wonderful. You can type in things both transliteratively and also using Yiddish characters. So this is definitely a resource, and I just wanted to show you kind of on your screen what this distinction might look like. And I think ייענען is probably on the money. Your family probably said some derivation of machaya, because as I understand, and we can even try, this uses standard Yiddish. So if we kind of reverse engineer your Litvak accent a little bit and put it into kind of standard Yiddish or something like moykhl, we don't really get much. We get small-brained, that kind of thing. So my gut tells me that it's probably something like mchihełע or moykhl, or mchiheł. That was kind of short. which means pleasure.
Isn't moykhl zayn is I forgive you?
Yo, moykhl zayn is I forgive you. What was happening? Oh, what was happening in that example? Oh, that's a great question. So what's happening here is that this isn't moykhl. This is the word der moykh, meaning mind. That's turned into a diminutive with the ul at the end, meaning small-brained. That's what's happening here. So it's not moykhl, it's moykhl.
It's from Hebrew moch. Moch is brain.
Exactly, from moykh. So it means small-brained, small-minded. Good. Okay, so a lot of grammar today. I'm sad we didn't get to our song, but we'll get to it next time. Not a problem at all. Please keep asking questions. It's fantastic because
this was great. Thank you.
I have a question before we go, just about like what we should do to prepare for the class, because you've emailed a lot of different things. We have also Bärala, and we have the other story, chapter 2 you suggested. Should we be reading that, or should we be preparing chapter 2, lesson 2?
So you don't ever need to necessarily prepare anything for me, because I don't. I'm a big believer in doing homework that's helpful for you. So the reason I send all that stuff is because I want you to look at that and decide, oh, I don't like reading a textbook. I don't want to read this. I'd rather spend my time reading. Please spend your time reading. Or if you say, oh, I find it really hard to read by myself, I think I'd rather do it with Eyshe there. But you might want to spend time reading over the grammar that I sent and just take time with it for yourself. That's also an option to you. If you would like to do any exercises, and anything I send, I try to include the exercises that are there. If you'd like to do them, they're not mandatory, but if you want to, I encourage it, and just bring your questions that you have from them to the comment session. So what I really want here is, because I know we all have busy lives, I know we have a lot going on. So the biggest thing is, look at what I send. None of it is mandatory. Find within it something you think might be useful. Practice it, read it, spend time with it, anything you'd like. Then bring any questions you have to the next session, and I'll be happy to answer.
Yesha? Just a quick thing. Basically, when you send it the email to us, you're writing a paragraph in Yiddish. I was wondering if you not doing it transliterating, but you sent it in the Yiddish words, because you're sending the Yiddish sentences in the Latin letters. So actually for me, I would like to practice to read everything in Yiddish. So basically, if you wouldn't mind to send it by typing it in a Hebrew word,
so
Hebrew letters.
The only reason I write them in Latin letters is because email format hates scripts that go right.
Okay, that's fine.
It throws everything off, and and especially when it becomes like a chain, like a forward chain, things can get moved, and it's annoying. It's insane that in 2022 email can't work for like Hebrew letters, but whatever. You can use it. It gets problems when you use an email in both.
No, if it's too much hassle, it's not a problem.
So I will. What I can do is I can do this. I can type something up that's basically like a syllabus, and that has the Yiddish in Yiddish letters, if that's easier. And it'll just be attached.
It would be nice. If it's not hard for you.
No, of course. The goal also with that transliteration is to expose you all a little bit to different ways of you might see Yiddish. But good. That's great. I can definitely include Yiddish letters. I was just worried about email formatting. That's the only reason. And then about homework. Yeah. If it's been confusing, my apologies. The goal I have with it, and I mean this genuinely, is just look at it, find if there's something useful in it. So, if I send you pages from Bäralä, that doesn't mean to read all the pages from Bäralä. It means if you would like to, you can read as far as you would wish in practice, and then bring those questions. When I send you a chapter from the textbook, it means if you would like to spend more time sitting with the information we talked about in class and thinking about it and practicing it, you're more than welcome to. And you can bring any questions you have to the class. If you want more practice about writing or reading or speaking, and this isn't enough, I'm happy to assign things, but I don't want to give you too much work. My philosophy around language learning is that if you don't want to do it, it's not going to be helpful for you. So at any rate, my email.
You know what I am doing parallel to our classes? Duolingo, we do have a Yiddish there.
Yeah.
And it's actually, if you would like an assignment, we got plenty of exercises to go through.
If you would like more work, if you would like more specific exercises, things that are more guided, I'm happy to send those too. I just don't want to make them mandatory. Just be in communication with me. I just put my email in the chat. Just be in communication with me. Tell me what you would like, and I can assign you as much work as you would want. It'll keep you very busy, but I don't want to, overwhelm you.
I think what I'm asking though about the stories reading, because I have a really hard time reading it, and I spend time, like especially the Barrel and reading it. Is I'm just wondering if in class you could read some of the stories that you.
Yeah. Well, that was actually
what we were doing.
That was actually my plan for today. We just didn't get to it. Time-wise. Yeah.
But grammar is very important too. I really enjoyed that.
Good. Today we were going to read Beirola, and then I had another song we were going to do. Maybe that was too ambitious. But next time we will absolutely read. Okay. Sheinem Dank euch alle. It's wonderful to see you as always. As Mחיהלע euch zu sehen. Or ich bin sich Mחיהלע, was ihr seid alle da.
And ich sage moykhl.
Ja, gut. Das ist Mחיהלע euch zu sehen. Und
Mחיהלע, ja. Keine Hora, zayn Mחיהלע, keine Hora, Mחיהלע, chef nachs.
Gut. Ich darf gehen, that means that there's no one beating my back about it, but I probably should go because I do have to run. But says Shane Eichzezen, if Carrie just got on and said, Eyshe, you need to go, time's up, go, that would mean ich muss gehen.
Lose.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Shane Eichzezen und bis die kommendikער Woche. Okay.
Ja.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.